All right, so we're looking at triangle midsegments, how we can use the triangle midsegments to be able to identify side and angle measures. So the first thing you need to know is that the midsegment connects the midpoints of the sides. So point D is the mid-segment of AB, and we know that because of the congruent segments, right? If it's a middle point, it cuts the the one into two congruent pieces. Same thing over here. E is the midpoint here, and we know that because BE and EC are congruent. Therefore, the line that connects those 2 points, DE, is what we call the midsegment, okay? So the mid-segment theorem says that if the segment joins the 2 midpoints, then the segment is parallel to the third side, so DE is parallel to AC. And then it's also half as long as AC. So you could say that, and I didn't quite get that on there. Let me move that down a little bit. DE is 1/2 of AC, or you could say AC is 2 of the DEs. Is everybody with me there? So if you didn't get that last little piece here, make sure you get that down. Got it? Good? Okay. All right, so let's look at some examples. So for example 1, we're going to identify parallel segments. So there is my drawing. I have triangle RQS with mid segments WX, XY, and WY. And I know that because of the way the congruent statements are done. W is the midpoint of QS, Y is the midpoint of RS, and X is the midpoint of QR. Yes? So can you tell me a set of parallel lines? What would be one set of parallel lines? Remember the WX and RS. Does everybody agree with that? Yes. All right, so WX is parallel to RS. I agree with that. What else we got? XY and QS. Somebody different want to give me one? QR and WY. Everybody good? So just identifying those mid segments as parallel. Okay? Let's look at another example then. supposed to say of the sides of triangle PQR. And PR is equal to 46. And PQ equal to 40. And LN equal to 17. Find each measure. Looking at this triangle, and they want me to find the measure of LM, MN, QR, and MR. Oh, sorry. Make that where you can see it. All right, so if I'm looking at this picture and I'm looking at all the things they told me, the first thing I might do is do what to my picture? Label it. That's what I'm gonna do first. All right, so the first thing I'm going to label here is, if these are midpoints, what do I know about PQ here? Then these two parts are congruent, right? If L is the midpoint of PQ, and if M is the midpoint of QR, then these two are congruent, and then N, also the midpoint of PR, makes these two parts congruent, right? Okay. And then they tell me that PR, this whole piece down here, is 46. And they tell me that PQ, this whole piece over here, is 40. And they tell me that LN is 17. I think I've got everything labeled that I might possibly need. So I'm going to start with what they asked me about. They say, what is the measure of LM? So how might I be able to find LM given all this other information? Go back and look at that theorem and see what it said. What did it say about the mid-segments? It's half as long as who? The third side, right? So LM is half as long as who? PR, right? Half of PR. So what is half of 46? 23. See it now? Okay. So then it asked me for MN. How might I find MN? What is? It's half of PQ. And what's half of 40? 20. Good. All right, and then what is, some days picking colors is just so hard. All right, so QR, they're talking about this long side over here. How can I find QR? So it is 2 times LN. So 2 times 17 would be 34. Okay. And then the last thing I'm going to look at is MR here, this whole segment here. How could I find MR? Right, the whole length is 34 and M separates it into two congruent pieces, then I could just half it and that would be 17. So I want to make a point to say here, if this one's 17, what would this one be?
17.
Okay, if I know all of that, what would this one be? And this one?
23.
And this one?
20.
And this one?
20.
You know lots of stuff about this triangle, right? Here's what I'm going to tell you though. You can't assume lines drawn inside the triangle are all mid-segments. They have to have some of these congruent markings. Is everybody with me? Okay. All right. So let's look at one more example before you try one. We're going to find X. That's made me giggle today. I don't know why finding X would be funny, but it has been. Too much Pinteresting. On the screen. Alright, I'm gonna write upside down. Seems logical at this point. Alright, so I've got, that's seriously upside down. I don't know why I didn't put it on this side, then it wouldn't seem quite so upside down. I don't know. I've got 7x and I've got 17x minus 18. 7x and 17x minus 18. How might I be able to go about finding x based on the information we've just used above? What do you know about these two segments here?
That 7x has to be multiplied twice to be equal to the bottom.
Two of these have to equal one of these. Does everybody agree? So 2 times 7x equals 17x minus 18. And now I can just solve for x. 2 times 7x is 14x. I'm going to subtract 17x from both sides. I've got negative 3x equal to negative 18. I divide by negative 3, and x equals 6. Okay? Questions? The only thing that I would tell you is they could have asked me for how long this segment is, right? Or how long this segment was, and I'd have to plug x back in. So just make sure you are answering what they ask you to answer. They asked me for x, and that's what I'm giving them, right? Okay. All right, you try this one. Does everybody have that before I change my paper? Okay. I'm going to find RT. I've got 15x minus 17 and 23x minus 6. Okay, give you a minute to work that.